All right. How we doing, guys? We've got a few people coming in. Welcome back to Ocean Stories. We've got a special guest with us today, Sarah Richards from Girls That Scuba. A lot of you guys can recognize her from the Girls That Scuba group. She does a lot of amazing trips with us, and today she's going to be sharing some really, really awesome tips. Something that's really important right now, especially when a lot of us are feeling a little bit disconnected from the ocean, and there's not a lot of us can't even really visit the ocean right now, or there's a lot we're feeling kind of like our hands are tied, feeling like a little bit hopeless about the state of things. So it's really cool to have something tangible, something that we can contribute, not just for ourselves, but something that we can spread, something that's, we have these massive, massive problems going on in the world, but we can break them down into something that we can do something about, into small solutions that we can hopefully spread and have a domino effect throughout the world. Me and Sarah were just talking, and like we just have this bubble that we live in. Some of these things are things that we already know about. But when you think outside of this bubble, outside to people who are not as connected to the ocean as, the Girls That Scuba group or people outside of the diving community, a lot of these things are lost upon people. The problem with plastic, the problem with marine pollution. So to know about these things, to have these solutions, and to be able to spread these simple solutions to others is like a really, really powerful tool, because as consumers, we have this incredible power to vote for different companies, for different brands, especially like Sarah's company, A Waste-Free World. So we're able to have this power as consumers to make a difference, to vote for products that we want to see in the world. So Sarah, I'll hand it over to you to share some of your tips for sustainable swaps in our lives.
Awesome. Thank you, Alice.
No problem.
All right. Hey, everybody. So we're also going to be recording this. Hopefully you guys are okay with that, so we can share it to everyone that can't be on now. I know a lot of people are a little bit zoomed out, but I'm not going to take up too much of your time. But yeah, I just think this is a really great cause. This Project Aware Week has actually been really great this year, because people have actually had the time to sit and listen to things that maybe we wouldn't have had time last year. So I think it's going really well. I've seen some like brilliant things going on, and hopefully I can contribute to one of that. So let me just share my screen somehow. It says who can share. I swear they do change Zoom like every week.
Thank you.
Why has it changed?
They're trying to keep us on our toes.
Yeah.
People may be getting bored of Zoom, but they're making sure that we don't get bored of it.
Right. Okay, I've got it now. Let's play. Everyone can see? You see it, Alan?
Yes, perfect.
Cool. All right. Let me just... There you go. All right, so hopefully it's only going to be like 20 minutes of your time, but we can open it up to questions, or you guys can ask questions at any time. Actually, like just type in the box if you've got a question. Ellen will see, and she can ask me. So yeah, basically what I'm going to talk to you about today is just simple sustainable swaps that you can make to really help save the ocean, to make a difference to the ocean. As you mentioned before, as scuba divers, we're already like hyper aware, super aware, and it's hard doing talks like this because you don't want to be patronizing, you don't want to be like, oh, obviously don't use plastic, but then also there are so many different things that we're constantly learning, and I feel like every single day we're all learning things, so it's great to just recap those, but also it's great for you guys to be able to tell the people that you surround yourself with and your audience. Maybe if you sometimes you can share something on Facebook and somebody reading it wouldn't have a clue. So while we think we are like ocean warriors and want to save the world, some people don't think like we think. So hopefully some of these facts can help. So yeah, who am I and why do I care about this? Well, for those of you who don't know, my name is Sarah Richard. I am the founder of Girls at Scuba, which you probably know
Wait, hold on,
more.
Sarah.
And
I think, is it,
yep,
are you sharing like a presentation?
yes.
I think it's like, I can see like your computer screen. It's like a, I can't see the presentation. It's like a,
Right.
just
Okay,
like,
let's, here we go. You see that?
I can see, it just says, it has like the ocean stories background. Ah, perfect. There you go. You got it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. Cool. All right. Yeah. So who am I? Why do I care? So yeah, I run Girls at Scuba, and I also, for about 18 months now, have started a plastic-free online shop called A Waste-Free World. It's also a community as well. And what I do at A Waste-Free World is like spend every single day trying to find plastic-free swaps to like everyday products. And then not even just everyday products, like basically anything that we can find that you can buy plastic free or sustainable, we'll try and find those swaps. So yeah, it's only been 18 months, but we have nearly 200 products now which are completely plastic free. So I can talk more about those later on. But the reason that I started A Waste Free World was because in the early days of Girls at Scuba, we would get a lot of like questions about, you know, I've seen like I saw loads of plastic in the ocean, or, you know, I saw like microplastics. Like people started to get really interested about it and ask how they could make a difference and what swaps they can make. And while I was like super interested and really happy people were talking about that, I didn't want the group to be taken over by like, how can we stop using plastic, because it is a scuba diving group and we want to just talk about scuba diving and everything like that in there. So I thought, you know, let's start another group that we can continue talking about like these problems, but in a space where we can kind of open it up to the rest of the world as well, and it's not just female scuba divers. So Waste Free Wild gives us the opportunity to reach a lot more people. So why do I care? Because I'm a scuba diver and it's impossible for me to get into the ocean and to see the effects. I've been diving for nearly 12 years now, and like while that's not a long time for some divers, it's definitely enough time to see difference, and enough time to see like some of the effects that these plastics have had on the ocean. So we're going to start with like the truth about plastic in the ocean. So many people, like probably not us lot, think like, oh yeah, like let's stop using plastic straws, let's stop using plastic bags, and let's stop using plastic bottles, which is absolutely correct. We should stop doing it. But this isn't actually like the problem of the plastic in the ocean. Of course, it contributes to it, but it is actually the plastic straws in the ocean, which is kind of really in the media in the last few years, only accounts for like 0.03% of the plastic waste. So obviously it's still a huge amount, but it's, if you look at it in the bigger picture, it isn't these plastic straws that are really like littering the ocean as we know, as the media are kind of making it out to be. So there are a lot bigger plastic polluters. So you've probably already made these kind of like little switches, which would be like the coffee cup, the reusable bottle, and like a reusable bag. And that for many people around the world that are aware of plastic issues and plastic pollution are like these three are like the swaps that everyone's made. So I'm not going to start talking about those because I'm pretty sure you guys already know about it. So there are many more important sustainable swaps to be made, and I just want to talk about like a few of the main problems that are causing plastic pollution in the ocean and how we can kind of go around helping it not get any worse. I don't know if we can help it get better, but we can help it not get any worse. So fishing nets are one of the biggest plastic polluters in the ocean. So as you can see here, it's an estimated of 1.28 billion pounds of fishing gear goes into the ocean each year, which will account for a large amount of the plastic pollution. So you're looking at like as much as 70% of all microplastics. So when you're thinking about that 0.03% of the straws, it suddenly makes you realize like, okay, it's not the straws that I need to stop using. It's like a bigger problem. So these fishing nets, which are also called ghost fishing nets, which basically means they've been discarded by fishermen. Sometimes the fishermen just throw them overboard when they don't need to use them anymore. And other times they can just get lost and they kind of like tangle into like this big horrible ball, which you can kind of see that picture above, which is just awful for the ocean, but also for marine animals. And it is estimated that an average of 30 to 40 marine animals get caught in those nets, like each net, which is terrible. And it's a nylon plastic, so obviously it's completely plastic, and if it does break down, it breaks down into smaller pieces, and there's just no getting rid of these nets in the ocean. However, there are a growing number of companies who are starting to work with people who are collecting these ghost fishing nets, and they are making them into sustainable, like swimwear, footwear. Adidas is like one of the biggest ones who have come out with like a shoe, which is all made from fishnets. But someone that we can maybe relate to more is Fourth Element, which is, a scuba company here in the UK who work alongside some of the charities here to use these fishing nets and create garments out of them, swimwear and things like that. So while it's not perfect because they're still made out of plastic, at least they are made out of these discarded fishing nets, which will then be actually taken out of the ocean. A lot of people ask, like, well, yeah, how did that nets get taken out? How do people find these nets? Well, there are like support charities, non-profit organizations who are removing these fish nets from the ocean. And one that I'm familiar with here in the UK is called Ghost Fishing. And that's been set up by a bunch of divers just like us, who, were seeing these nets in the UK water and just kind of like wondering what to do with them. They've also, a lot of those nets get entangled in like reefs and wrecks, and it is actually quite hard to remove them. So a big team is needed, and obviously funding is needed for them to do that. But they're doing a really, really great job. They just need more funding because it's not really a charity that people are shouting about. A lot of charities, when it comes to like plastic in the ocean, would be like Plastic Oceans. One of the ones like Silver Owl does, like people know about a little bit about the bigger charities, but these ghost fishing net charities, a lot of people don't really know about. So what happens is when like either a fisherman can report it or a diver can report it, they'll phone ghost fishing, and then they'll get their group of divers, and they're all volunteers, and they'll go out and help remove it with like lift bags and all kind of like floats, so they can kind of cut all this gear free, take it out, and then they can pass it on to somebody that can either discard of it properly on land or can actually do something with it to make into garments. But it's like massive degree of teamwork, coordination. You need to be a really great diver. It's also really cold in the UK. You need a dry suit. So it's like not like fun work for these guys to be doing, but they're divers and they're really dedicated. So if you do have an opportunity, or you need to or you want to support a charity, I would definitely recommend these ghost fishing charities, because they are taking one of the biggest polluters of plastic out of our ocean. And yeah, they're not worrying about the straws. They're taking these massive weights out of the ocean. So they're an amazing charity to look into. Another way of like that we can kind of stop like more of these nets going, as I said, like it's quite hard to be like, yeah, well, let's take all of the nets out of the ocean, because it's not as simple as that, but we can kind of stop more of it, is to reduce eating fish. But like when I say this, I'm not saying like boycott fishermen, like take away their livelihood, like the guys off of Cabo, like on a one boat, like I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, like, understand like where you are buying your fish from. If you do still want to eat fish, buy it sustainably, because it's like, as I said before, it is the fishermen that unfortunately are discarding these nets, and they're like broken off. They no longer need them. They also cost more to like bring them back on land and recycle them or dispose of them. So for them, it's just so much easier to chuck them in the ocean. A problem with this as well is that while lots of like charities and environmental groups have like suggested ways that they could like stop this happening, discarding these nets, is like install like GPS trackers to the nets, meaning that it's like linked to the boat. So like the fisherman would not want to do that because he knows that he would get caught and they could get fined and stuff like that, but it hasn't actually been put into place. It's still just like ideas. Again, I think it comes down to like funding, like governments People just don't find this sort of stuff important. So for people like us that really care about the ocean, like, to educate people on that, it would be huge as well. And you know, I can't sit here and say like you stopping eating fish is going to change this, so it's going to make a difference, but like your individual choices will make that small difference, and you can continue to tell other people. So it's a hard one when it's like stop eating fish. You know, I don't eat fish, I haven't done for a long time because of environmental reasons, but does my one, you know, me as an individual make like, can it get all of these nets out of the ocean? No, but it can help me with stuff like this to educate other people. So you never know. I definitely still recommend not eating fish if you can, or be sustainable in your choices. Later on, I've got a recommendation of an app that if you do want to eat fish, you can look into which is the most sustainable in your area to eat. And then cigarettes is another massive like polluter to our ocean. So it's estimated that 4.5 trillion filters are littered each year. And there's just no way they can count that. Like, it's probably so much more, but that's just an estimated. And just one of those single like cigarette filters can kill a fish because the toxicity levels can rise, and that fish will just not survive. It can also affect human health, which is another interesting one, because if you are still eating fish, you know, you never really know if that fish has digested a cigarette filter or any of those toxins that go into it. So that's also another like good argument for eating less fish, giving up fish. And yes, so they get eaten by the animals by mistake from food. Lots of different animals filter feeders as well. And it has been, you know, they did a survey where they found 70% of seabirds and 30% of turtles had traces of cigarette butts in them. I think for us as scuba divers, I think we can all personally have an experience of seeing somebody throw a cigarette butt overboard. Like, maybe it wasn't recently, but like, I know when I used to work out in Egypt, it was like almost like it was just normal to like for the people on the boat to have a cigarette and throw it off board, just like you would if you just saw like a leaf and you just threw it. And it's crazy, and it was like nobody had ever told them that that wasn't the right thing to do. So things have, you know, made a massive shift and a massive change recently, and people do call people out more on that. But I definitely still see people throwing cigarettes out their car window, throwing them on the floor. I see people throw them into drains because they feel like that's getting rid of a cigarette, but all that's doing is allowing the cigarette to go into the waterways, which ends up in the rivers or the oceans. So to let people know like how kind of like toxic cigarettes are and how fish can mistake them as food, and then it can go onto your plate. And that's just disgusting in itself, isn't it? So what can you do about smoking? Well, don't smoke. And the good thing about this is that we're not boycotting, you know, for small fishermen that are going off the coast with their line and catching fish. We're boycotting massive multi-billionaire companies who are effectively killing people. So I definitely don't have a problem with saying like, don't smoke, and encourage other people not to smoke. There's also obviously loads of health benefits to that as well. So I think a great thing you can do is call other people out. I think it will happen more on your day-to-day life of when people are along the street, or if it's like your friend and they just throw it away, you can just say like, oh, do you know what happens? Like, where's that cigarette going? So that's a massive polluter of the ocean. So while it's not like single-use plastic, it's still like these simple ways that you can kind of make a difference to people in your community or around you. And then, yeah, now I want to get onto the great sustainable swaps, like to help reduce single-use plastic. And many of them maybe you don't know of, as we said before, like there's all of the kind of big ones that we're told a lot about, but through the research of creating a waste-free world, I've discovered basically how much everything around us has plastic in. Some of it you can't avoid, but some of it you can. It's just nice to find like simple, sustainable swaps. So one of my favorite ones at the moment, I think I only discovered this like 6 months ago. It's quite obvious if you think about it. It's like elastics, hairbands, that any diver or anyone that's going swimming in the ocean who has long hair that uses them. I mean, like, how many have you lost? Come on, like when you jump off the boat and then like suddenly your hair's everywhere and you're just like, oh God, like I've lost my hairband. And then as annoying as it is, like the only thing we would think before is like, oh my God, that's so annoying. My hair's going to get everywhere. But actually, when you think about it, all of the kind of like things, all of the mixed materials that are in there is all synthetic materials and they're not recyclable. I mean, who knows, maybe they're mistaked as food as well, but the small little elastic, non-biodegradable things that just will end up in that ocean. So I was looking everywhere before this talk to try and find some kind of fact of like how many hairbands, bobbles, whatever we call them, that we lose every day, but there isn't one. Because I'm sure that nobody has bothered to look into that. But I mean, I know me, I'm sure you guys, like you can walk along the street and you can find a hairband. Like somebody is losing hairbands almost like every second of the day. And as divers, it's just inevitable that you will lose hairbands. So one of my favorite plastic-free swaps are these new 100% fair trade plastic-free hairbands and scrunchies. And they're the first of its kind to be completely 100% plastic free and fair trade. And they're biodegradable when you do lose them. So if you do lose them, it's obviously not great, but you can kind of like feel a little bit better that at least it is going to biodegrade rather than just completely litter the ocean. So I'm wearing my one now, actually. You can see that they're really, really great as well because they are like, they're thicker and they just stick to your hair better. So I've had, maybe like a year now I've been using them. I've never lost one. So the good thing is they're designed not to lose as well. They are a little bit more expensive than normal hairbands. You have to really care. You have to really want to make a difference to start buying these sustainable swaps. But as I said, like mine has lasted for so long. I have never lost one. So when you think of it over time, like you're definitely investing in your hair and the ocean as well. So yeah, I love those. They're all available at A Waste Free World. Tea bags is another funny one that a lot of people don't realize, but they contain plastic. So there's been loads and loads of studies on tea bags recently where they've kind of like dissolved it and then it's left with like this skeleton, like very thin layer of plastic. But they pretty much, like every single brand of tea bag has that like thin layer of plastic around it. And that plastic is obviously plastic. It's non-biodegradable. All it will do is just break down. So it's kind of like a bit of controversy because a lot of people have been putting their tea bags into like compost, you know, with the rest of their like compost food, but it actually never ever breaks down. So there will be big companies like, I don't know about where you guys live, but us it's like PG Tips, Yorkshire Tea, like all of the massive tea bag brands, they all contain plastic. And the problem is with the plastic as well is that it releases these like tiny microplastics as you're drinking your tea. So the longer your tea bag's in there, like tiny little bits are actually being released and then we're obviously drinking it. So it's like nanoplastic particles. As you can see there, it's like a crazy amount of like nanoplastic particles that go into a single cup of tea. So a great plastic free spot for those have been these like cotton reusable tea bags which you use with loose leaf tea. So you have to actually buy the tea in the loose leaf, like not in the bag obviously. A lot of places actually do those in like refill shops now, but you can still buy them in supermarkets. They actually turn out cheaper sometimes as well. You just pop them in that bag, use the bag like a normal tea bag, and then you just wash it with your normal clothes or you can just hand wash it. So they're really brilliant. You can buy, like we have a pack of 3. I feel like they're like £4 or something, and you can just keep using them and using them and using them, and you know, you never have to throw them away. So that's like a very interesting plastic free swap. Another great one, it's just kind of coming a little bit more mainstream if you're into plastic free, are wax wraps. So these are alternatives to like plastic cling film, plastic like food wraps, which is basically sheets of single-use plastic which just can never be recycled and it will just break down and can get wrapped in marine life, and it's just horrible stuff. It doesn't even let your food like breathe or anything like that. So these are like organic cotton solutions to food wraps. So we have ones which are beeswax, made out of beeswax, and we also have vegan ones which are made out of soya wax. So obviously it's completely vegan as well. And they're completely compostable, they're breathable, they make your food last so much longer. Like I have a bread one and I just put the bread straight into it, and it honestly makes it last like 5 days longer than it would if you just put it in a normal bag or anything. And you just wash them. So you wrap anything you can see on the screen. They've got sandwiches, cakes, salads, cheese. You wrap anything in it. Once you're finished with it, you wash it with cold water, and then you just keep reusing it. And like eventually the wax kind of like slowly breaks off over time, maybe like a few years, but you can just like shave more wax onto it. You just buy wax and melt it, and then you can kind of keep reusing them. And they're all just made out of organic cotton anyway, so they are a really, really great swap. This is my last swap because I don't want to talk forever. But this is like such a great one because reusable razors are like, I mean, these horrible, like, oh, they really get to me, these horrible, like, single-use plastic razors. Which you buy in like a pack of 4 for like $5, and then you're supposed to like use them like however many times and then just throw them away and use the next one, and they're like crappy razors. I also have a massive problem with like the pink tax that they put on it. Like they make it pink so it's for like women, and then they just charge more money for it and stuff. It's just ridiculous. So everything about plastic single-use razors and the big companies that run them is not great. With these reusable razors, you literally buy one and you have it for the rest of your life. You change the blades, so you just buy blades with them. So the blades are like non-reusable because of course you just, once the blade is finished, you have to discard of it, but they're fully recyclable, the blades. And that the actual base of the razor you just buy once and use it forever. It's £20. It doesn't make any difference what color it is. It's completely unisex, and that's it. £20 for the rest of your life. You have got these razors. The little blades that you buy as refills are like a couple of dollars, and they're a better shave, and you're literally just getting rid of all of this horrible single use that you would have used before. So it's such a great easy swap. It's a great gift as well. It's like one of those things that are super easy to buy for anybody, just to like encourage them on their journey to more sustainability. So yeah, I've just gone through a couple of the swaps, but some great resources which I've mentioned a few of them before is the Ghost Fishing UK, but they also have Ghost Fishing in other countries as well. Obviously Project Aware, who help kind of distributing all of this information. Fourth Element, which I spoke to you about, they're creating their some of their swimwear out of ghost fishing nets. They've also just created one of the first ever wetsuits, which is made from a plant-based material. The Marine Conservation Society is a resource which has an app which is called the Great Fishing Guide or the Good Fishing Guide, and that app will actually show you what fish, if you do want to eat fish, which is like the right fish to eat. So it will just tell you whether it's endangered, like critically endangered, sustainable, or anything like that. So it really helps, like if you are going to buy fish and you think like you want a white fish, there's not really much difference in taste with a lot of the white fish. And in here in the UK, like cod is everyone thinks like, oh, cod is like fish and chips, you know, but cod isn't actually sustainable. You know, there's mass overfishing because everyone wants their fish and chips, but there will be like a different option which will taste like exactly the same. So you can go on the app and you can take a look at like what fish it is good to eat, and what fish you should absolutely avoid. And then at A Waste Free World, we also have like a closed Facebook group where we share all of this information, all of these projects and stuff like that. So you can join the group. And then as you can see, there's only 5,000 members in there, and we just share resources really on plastic free products, you know, events, everything like that. So yeah, that's just some really great resources. I've got them I've written them all down as well, so I'll just share them in this box at the end. And then yeah, so A Waste Free World is my plastic free shop. I do it all myself. I like pack everything myself. I have like a place downstairs. I pack it all plastic free. I send it all, and we ship worldwide. The only problem is like Mexico is kind of a bad bad postal system. If you know you have a bad postal system, I would recommend not buying. Also on that fact, like we do ship worldwide because we get that option with Royal Mail in the UK, but I would honestly recommend you trying to find places which are more local to you, that you can, because you know, like if you are in Mexico and you're trying to buy from Away Through World, like we're shipping that from the UK, which is not very sustainable. Like we want to give people these options, and I always say, like, if you can find more of a local option, if you have somewhere around you that does that, then go and buy from them. But like if you really can't find anywhere but you want to make those swaps, then we can ship worldwide, but like, you know, it's not good for carbon footprint. And we have a YouTube channel which we do like little reviews of, like, we have like plastic free cleaning products, period products, just like every kind of like products that we do a lot of reviews so you can hear more about them. And then on the Instagram as well, we like share and repost other people's resources and just share loads of information about recycling, waste, like the ocean, plastic, and everything in between. So yeah, that's it, because I don't want to go on forever. But if you do have any questions, you can definitely ask me now, or anyone that's tuning in later. You can contact me on like Girls at Scuba or Away Through World any way you want. I'm more than happy to like talk about things. I definitely don't know everything. I'm not like, I didn't go to university or anything for this. I haven't got like certifications. It's just something that I like dedicate a lot of my time to learning, just so I can be better myself, and then I can share it with other people. So I'm definitely open to like feedback and everything like that.
Thank you so much, Sarah. And thank you guys so much for coming. I think it's, like Sarah said, it's so important to keep these issues in the public eye. You know, like news is moving through so quickly. Like, you know, one thing is trendy at one point and then it comes out of the public eye. But as you were saying, like with the cigarette filters, you know, at one point it was just like natural, just everybody's throwing their cigarettes into the ocean, and people are becoming more and more aware, and we're starting to see less and less of that. And hopefully one day we live in a world where everyone's using beeswax wraps and everyone's using reusable razors. I mean, it just becomes like the standard, it becomes the norm. We do see when we keep these issues in the public eye, you know, we might think that, well, the plastic straw issue is overdone, you know, like, can we just stop talking about plastic straws? Doesn't everyone know how bad plastic straws are? But the thing is everyone doesn't know yet. You know, we have 7 billion people, and not every one of those is connected to the ocean like we are. So it's important to keep talking about these things, to keep it in the, you know, at the forefront of the media, in the public eye, no matter how long we have to talk about it for. So we really appreciate you guys coming and staying dedicated to this cause. Something that's really close to my heart and really close to Sarah's heart, because it really does make a difference. I know that it can be really hard sometimes when it feels like everyone around you is using so much plastic and you're trying really hard to use alternatives. But the longer we do it, the more people can learn from our example, and the more that they ask questions and you have answers for them, and the more that we stay educated, the better that we can do. And you know, eventually maybe one person can't make a difference, but eventually 7 billion people making ethical choices can change the world. It can make a big difference for the ocean. So it's definitely really important. And we are seeing like small changes in people using more sustainable products. I mean, it takes time, but it's definitely, you know, from years ago where we were throwing a lot more trash and using a lot more natural resources for other things, we're seeing slow changes for sure. It's not instantaneous, but keeping this in the public eye is definitely really important. So I really appreciate you coming to talk. And as we're coming to the end of Project Aware Week, a lot of these swaps are super important. I mean, we just did a dive against debris here in Cabo a few days ago, and as some of the swaps that Sarah's talking about, the razors, we found 3 razors in the ocean, like in one cleanup. So the plastic razors, like a huge swap that we can all do. And you know, that was just in one dive, in one cleanup, finding 3 plastic razors at the bottom of the ocean. And the cling wrap, that stuff is so hard to get. Once it gets buried in the sand, trying to pick it out, it just breaks apart. It's so thin, it just like breaks apart. It's one of the worst things to try to pick out of the ocean. So the beeswax wraps are amazing. So really, really cool. Thank you for sharing that. Really cool. I think we have one question from Alexandra. She said, "Hey there, what an enlightening talk. Have you ever had anyone reach out to open a branch of your plastic-free business in another country? I love the concept of having a one-stop shop for all plastic-free needs, but like you said, having to order internationally could leave a big footprint."
Yeah, I mean, I always get a lot of people being like, oh my gosh, I wish you had like a shop where we are, or yeah, in a different country. And like honestly, like many problems with small startups, the problem is funding. Like we don't really make much money at all or any money at the moment because it's still a very, very small startup. So there is no funding to like start a store, like even in the UK, because the rent you have to pay on the stores is super expensive. So, but it's all good because we've only been going like 18 months. So in the future, I would absolutely love to like go over to the US because I think that's also another massive place, which is the other side of the world, and have a store, like have something like this, or even if we just got like a distribute center over there. It's definitely something in like the very like far future that I would like to look at.
Yeah, definitely. Really good question, Alexandria. Thank you so much. Does anybody else have any other questions? And feel free to email or message me or Sarah as well. Sarah, did you share your Facebook? Oh, you have a Waste Free World Instagram on there.
Easy to find, yeah, on all of them.
Yeah, exactly. So feel free to message Sarah or at Dive Ninjas as well. We're happy to answer any questions as well. And in the Waste Free World Facebook group, that's another great option. I love the idea that everyone's kind of sharing ideas. I think the best way to get involved with making swaps is like just being constantly flooded with it in your social media feed. Because like every day you can kind of be reminded, or someone presents a new idea that they've discovered, like, oh, this is an easy way to do this. And if someone's tried it already, it's like, well, I'm going to incorporate that idea in my life. And so it's a really cool way to do that as well. Yeah.
I've just like copied like some of the resources there.
Ah, perfect.
So if people need them.
Yeah. And another great app I was going to add as well, the Monterey Bay Aquarium app is another, depending on what country you're in, is another cool app for finding sustainable fish, like a sustainable fish guide. Even if you don't eat fish, if you have friends that eat fish, like recommending them, like, hey, just learning where your fish comes from, the Monterey Bay Aquarium app is another good one. Kind of all depends on where you live in the world. Cool. Did anybody else have any questions? For me or Sarah? Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us, and have an awesome rest of your Aware week. Hopefully we get to dive with you soon. Hopefully we get to see you soon, Sarah, in Cabo.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
Cool. Well, thank you guys, and stay safe, stay well, and we'll see you soon.
See you later, everyone.
See you, Sarah.
Yeah.